I'm Juanita and welcome back to the Knit Guru. Today I'm going to stand here and do the world's fastest introduction because it's just decided to rain and the chickens have decided to be the loudest they have ever been in their life. Today we are going to make this tiny pumpkin. I've got a little tiny stem in the middle there. You can do whatever kind of stem you want. I will try and remember to put in a link to the kind of pumpkin that this is based off of up the top. But if you're making a little arrangement of pumpkins, I think I've got 3 or 4 pumpkin patterns on the internet, and this is one that's had a resurgence in popularity this year, but also a plethora of comments about its construction. So this is the pumpkin that we're going to do in this tutorial today. So you're going to need some scraps of orange yarn, some brown or green yarn for this stem here, or you can use a cinnamon stick and some needles that match your yarn. I'm using DK and a 4.5mm needle, but you can choose to use whatever matches the yarn that you're using. It would look very cute in a plush yarn. All right, so I'm going to try this top down, and for a change, we'll see how we go. So we're going to knit the tiny pumpkin. The pattern calls for 4mm needles, I think, or maybe I didn't specify. No, I didn't specify in the pattern what size needles, but you want your needles to match up with your yarn. I'm just going one size larger for 2 reasons. One, I can't find my 4mm needles, but mostly it's because I want my stitches to be able to be seen in the video, to be honest. So I'm going to get, as you can see, I'm not using a lot of yarn. This is just what's left over from a ball of yarn. So it's not going to use a lot at all. So I'm hoping that this tutorial will be like a one shot, for lack of a better description, without having any cuts, but we'll see. Okay, so we're going to start off by casting on 8 stitches. Now, I use a cable cast on. I use a cable cast on for nearly everything, to be honest. You can use a long tail cast on. It really doesn't matter what cast on you're going to use, because we're going to end up stitching up this into sort of like the bottom of it. So it's 6, 7, 8. Right, so we've got our 8 stitches, and we'll just give ourselves a bit more yarn space here. Now we're going to knit into the front and the back of each one of these stitches. I'm just going to remove this little tangle out of this yarn. So to do that, we just knit into the front, then we come around to the back, and we knit into the back of the stitch as well. This means that we're going to double the number of stitches in our row from 8 to 16 in this row, because each stitch is now becoming 2 stitches. If you can hear Rocky snoring in the background, you can tell that knitting pumpkins is low on his list of interests, but sitting around behind me is high on his list of interests for today. I've just been away for a couple of days, so he's a little needy and clingy right now. Right, so we have now got 16 stitches on our needle. They're quite tightly packed together at this point, but that's okay. So we're going to turn it around, and we're just going to purl right across. Now, I'm really, really, really hoping that you're all in focus up there. I'm hoping that you're in frame. I'm not entirely sure because I can't see. And I'm the only one home right now. So I thought that, you know, normally I could just sit here and do my thing and get someone to just double check that, you know, I'm positioned correctly. But I'm not sure. Sometimes I've done the setup over the kitchen bench, but I don't want to do that today. So we've got our cast on edge of 8, then we've increased to 16 and we've purled a row. Now we're going to knit into the front and the back of each stitch again. That's going to double the number of stitches. So that's going to take us up to 32 stitches. So this is the bit that may take the longest in the whole process. So again, we are just in the front and in the back, in the front, in the back. Now you do not need to use double pointed needles. I just find that double pointed needles, when doing small projects, are really handy because the back end of them doesn't get in the way. I've got a lot of 30-35 centimeter needles, and I hate everything about them now. now that I've converted over to circulars. I quite like a 15 centimetre needle for doing like baby projects, or a 20 centimetre needle, but after that I find it's hard on my wrists, to be honest. So, but you do you, boo. It's not a huge project, so it's not like it's going to take you too long to do it. I mean, it probably wouldn't ruin my wrists if I was to just... I'm just going to take this bit of fluff off there. Okay. No, I'm going to stick it to myself instead. So here we've got our 32 stitches. The questions that I've had about this pattern online, this pattern's been up for a while, but I'm getting a lot of questions about people getting too many increases in their stitches. So I think I know where that's happening, which is why I'm making this tutorial. I'm also hoping that by putting this one up on YouTube, more people will discover this little pumpkin. And it is a little pumpkin. It's very cute, but it is little. I guess if you used a chunky yarn and bigger needles, it's going to be bigger, but I'm not. I pretty much do everything almost exclusively in double knit yarn. I do have some 12 ply bulky yarns in my stash. I do have some bigger yarns in my stash, but I always find myself coming back to DK weight and 4 ply for socks. There's the part of me that's like, do I want to go down the rabbit hole of knitting a 4 ply cardigan? Because I know that my Aunt Maureen constantly knits 4 ply cardigans. But I feel like as soon as I do that, I've fully convinced myself that I'm a grandma. Okay, so we're up to 32 stitches here and we've purled our row. This one was our last row of increases, which is going to take us to 40 stitches. So we're going to knit 3. So that's 1, 2, 3. And then in the 4th one, we're going to knit in the front and in the back. So over every 4 stitches, we're increasing 1. So we knit 1, 2, 3, and then we're knitting in the front and the back. Now, one of the things that you'll notice about the choice to use the knit front and back is that it creates these, let's see if I can show you, little almost purl stitches. Sometimes that annoys me, and so I don't use this method for increasing. Sometimes I make it part of the feature. In this one, you'll see how the purl stitch, well, the look of the purl stitch gets used in just a moment. 2, 3. But what I like about the knitting in the front and the back is that if you're making something that stuffs, it makes a really tight fabric, for lack of a better description. We're not letting stuffing through. If we do a pick one up from the row below, sometimes, like if you do that version of a make one, you can end up with a hole if you don't put enough of a twist in it. So I'm not a big fan of using that all the time. I do use it, but I don't use it all the time. This is the one I tend to use more, or yeah, I will use the make one if I'm doing like raglan sleeves or something. But okay, so here we are with our 40 stitches. Now, at this point, we're going to establish the pattern. So what we're going to now do is, and I think this is where the mistake might be in the actual pattern itself. We are going to, whoops, I've done that wrong already. We're going to start by doing a knit 1, and then we're going to purl 3. No, purl 4, sorry. And purl 4. Then we're going to knit 1. Then we're going to purl 4. So, 4, knit 1, 1, 2, 3, 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 4, knit 1, and then purl our last 4. Oh, probably out of shot. Okay, so what we will have now is this little row like this. Now, I think this is where we're getting the confusion coming along online. So in these rows here, what we're going to do is we're going to knit these knit stitches. So we're going to knit 4, and then what we're going to do is we're going to purl into the stitch below. So move into purl position, purl through here, and then just drop both of those. All right, so we're going to knit 4, 2, 3, 4, and then we are going to not purl in here, but we're going to purl in through here below, and we're doing that the whole way across. Now, it seems like it's a really silly little instruction, and so we're going to purl in here down below, because what it's going to do is just create a little bit more poof in our pumpkin, because it's going to drag this fabric upwards every time we go across this row. 3, 4, then we're going to purl 1 below, and then we're going to purl 1 below again. There we go, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to purl 1 below again. Okay, so 2, 3, 4. Now what we've done here is we have not increased a single stitch, but what we have done is we have decreased the space between the knit stitches and the purl stitches. So the knit stitches are now taking up more space, and the purl stitches are taking up less space. So it's just going to bring everything in. So the alternate row, it says in the original pattern purl row, but I'm going to change that because I have fell to the need. So we're going to go, this first one's a knit stitch, then we're purling 4. Now originally I just had this as a straight, just purl the whole way across, but I think this makes it a little bit easier to see your stitches, is by purling 4 and knitting 1. It does make it a little bit more annoying because you have to stop and count, but we're only counting to 4 really. We're not, it's not like purl 37 or one of those numbers where all of a sudden everything gets complicated. To be fair, anytime I've got to count something larger than 7, I think my brain hurts. Is it a sign of age, or is it my head injury? I will never know. I feel like in the mornings that I'm 100% cured from my concussion, and that I'm well and truly over it. And then I know that by lunchtime I start struggling to find the right words in a conversation, or I'll throw out a word with such confidence that is so wrong, but be unaware of it. I will be typing away confidently that I know what I'm doing, and often what will come out is gobbledygook. But I am also aware of the fact that it's definitely a sign that I'm improving, that I've got this confidence that I can do things. It's just, you know, I've got to reconnect parts of my brain after getting a significant whack. Right, okay, so I'm going to do this row again to show you. There's several of these in the pattern, so you will want to check the pattern out below. So what we're going to do is we're going to knit 4, 2, 3, 4. Now hopefully let's see if we can really focus on showing you this purl. So we're not purling in here like we normally would. We're coming in under this loop, but we're coming in under them both. So we're almost like we're eliminating an entire purl row. So they're both just sitting there, but we're not gaining any stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Bring the yarn forward, purl 2 below. But it's not purl 2, it's just purl below, if that makes sense. Okay, so we're coming forward and we're going below, but it's still only one purl stitch. And then the purl again. I think where it becomes complicated is the purl 2 below. What makes it sound like I'm doing 2 purls rather than not purling in the actual row, but below, if that makes sense. Below. I will admit that the one on the very end is more difficult to do. Okay, so you'll start to see that we've got these bulges happening across our work, and those bulges are happening without us having to stuff it, for lack of a better description. So what the pattern calls for is that we're going to do this knitting and purling row twice more. And then we're going to start decreasing for the top. So do you want to watch me do that? Or shall I just do it? I might put you on time lapse. And then that way you're still seeing it. But yeah, at least you won't have to listen to me commentate. Sorry, Ricky. Okay, so where we've got to here is we've finished the rows with the purling below, and you'll see we've got these slightly puffier orange bits, slightly puffier knit stitch bits, and the purl stitches are pulling things in a little bit more. So now we're going to decrease for the top of the pumpkin, and this is really easy. All we're going to do to start with is we're just going to knit 2 together over this whole row. So that's going to take us from having 40 stitches on the row down to having 20 stitches on the row. So this is a significant decrease, and it really does pull things in at the top of our pumpkin. I think I split that? I'm not sure. Okay, so, and this decreasing happens really quickly. I think more quickly than over any of my other patterns, actually. Because we're just going to be knitting 2 together all the way across this row, and that's going to bring us down real quick. I have just accidentally realised that I've made a genius plan by using these needles. They'll be fine for the next step. There we go. There we go. There we go. So we're bringing that in quite significantly there. That's going to also help puff out these sides. And now we're going to, on this next row, we're just going to purl 2 together across the whole thing. So that's going to take us from 20 stitches down to 10 really quickly. It's almost like the more I concentrate, the less I can talk. I can hear chickens out there laying eggs. It does make me think that after this I should go and collect the eggs. If anyone wants eggs, I think we're getting almost 3 dozen eggs a day at the moment. It's almost apocalyptic levels. Right, okay. Now this is our last row of orange, and we're going to knit 2 together the whole way across. So here we go. This is going to take us from 10 stitches down to 5 stitches. There we go, and there's our last one. Right, so now what we're going to do with this part is we're going to not let this needle roll away. We just want a short yarn tail, really, a little bit longer than you'd think, but right, okay. And now all we're going to do is we're just going to thread these remaining stitches onto a needle, and we're going to pull it tight. So you can see we've got this pumpkin-y shape going on. But before we stitch this up, I'm just going to do the last bit. Because the last bit, if you're doing these for markets, you can just use one of those I-cord machines, or you can batch make the little stems, or you can use a cinnamon stick for the stick. But I'm just using just a few rows of I-cord. I do have a full video on different ways of using I-cord, and I think it's linked on the website for this pattern. Right, so that's row 2. If you've never done an I-cord before, it's basically just 3 stitches on a double pointed needle, and rather than turning things around, you just slide them to the other end of the needle. Then we're going row 3. And then we're going row 4. And it just basically knits a really thin little tube. There are other things you can do, like an I-cord edge and stuff like that. I've got a blanket that I've got to do an I-cord edge through it, and I'm just not interested in doing it. Not in the slightest. Right, okay. So according to this, I've got 2 6 rows that I'm wanting, evidently. Yes, Rocky, that would be 6 rows. So once we've got the 6 rows, have I lost count? We'll never know. Not at all. Because I'm a professional. We could just pull the needle through the top of these, but because we're creating a stem, I just prefer to knit all 3 together, and then we can cut our yarn, pull it through the top loop, and then we've got a little stem. Now a little stem, you can make them longer and you can twist them around, you can do whatever you want. We're now up to the stitching and stuffing portion of this. Now let's just make sure that I'm going to stay in shot. Let's see if I can move this just a little bit. I'm not sure if I'm managing this. Right, okay. So in this top hole here, we would like to put our stem. So yes, cat. Yes. The cat normally hates me, but as I'm the only one home, the cat is tolerating my presence. Right, okay, so the easiest thing to do in the top section here is to just take the yarn tail that you've got and just stitch backwards and forwards through the I-cord stem just a little bit. Then what we're going to do is, you can do this in a mattress stitch if you want. Yes! Okay, the cat's just jumped up and she's standing on top of the dog. That's why she's not sounding so happy. She was not expecting to be sharing the chair with the dog. To his credit, he's ignoring her. If you knock over my tripod, you will drop down the list of favourite pets yet again. And it's hard to drop down lower. It's not that the cat's my arch nemesis. It's that she beats up on the dog. Yes. Are you now just walking through everything I'm doing? I mean, I suppose pumpkins, Halloween, black cat, it all kind of works, doesn't it? Are you blocking my light, babes? Are you, Right, okay, as we get closer to our cast on end, just going to tuck those yarn tails in there. Yarn tails, not cat tails, so you're in luck, aren't you? Yes, yes. And we're going to take little bit of stuffing. And we're gonna stick a little bit of stuffing in the hole. Now, you can choose how much you want to stuff these things. Sometimes I like to stuff them really firmly, and sometimes I choose to just focus on stuffing it out and around. If you've ever grown these tiny pumpkins, I did them last year and they were so cute. What are they called? French somethings, maybe? I feel like they're French somethings. Okay, now I'm just going to go around this cast on edge loosely. This is how you can tell how the sausage was made. Right, so we're just going to close up this hole. And you'll be saying, but Juanita, what if it doesn't look attractive on the bottom of my pumpkin? That's never going to be seen unless you're looking at the bottom of my pumpkin on the internet. Yeah, it's all good. Now, we've got a couple of things that we're going to do now. We're going to go from the bottom through to the top where we've got our stem. And we're just going to stitch in and out of there a couple of times. And you want to do this drops my needle on the floor. As absolutely as tight as you can do, because we want to bring those two sections quite close together. So it's going to give us this definition here. Now what we can do, and you can use these lines as a guide, we're just going to go around from top to bottom with our yarn tail. Yes, cat, your purring is pleasant. And we're just going to pull in our pumpkin along these lines. So you'll see, yes, we could do it without having the extra purl 2 from below. Yes, we could do it 1,000 other ways, but it's the way that I've found best to make the specific shape of these specific little pumpkins that I grew in my garden. I really like growing them in the garden because they're so cute. They pop up, and I grew the ones that are edible because I don't generally try to grow things just because they look good. But the little pumpkins are very cute. They look cute in the garden. They don't take too long, so that if you have a fail pumpkin season with all your other pumpkins, like, I feel like I needed a longer yarn tail. I did not have a long enough yarn tail. If you do have a fail, like I love butternut squash, and I was just thinking this morning, I should really do a butternut squash tutorial. Oh, that would be all kinds of grand. I've just got 2 more. Can I manage it with this tiny yarn tail? Or am I going to be rejigging it? See, this is why I say you need to leave quite a bit more of a yarn tail than you think you need, just for getting it through and pulling it. Oh no, I need 2 more. No, I'm going to give up on this. I'm just going to stitch this in the bottom, and I'm going to get a little bit more yarn. We're going to blame the cat. What you can't see is that I'm side-eyeing the cat. The cat loves it when I side-eye her. Shock of my life last night. I was lying in bed, leg hanging out of the bed, because of course I was. And what happens? Cat jumps up, lands on my leg. Next thing you know, my leg is being pulled, well, not pulled, but there's gravity on my calf that's hanging off the edge of the bed. I'm like, oh no, I'm going to die. Yeah, that's how I was feeling. And my initial thought was, as I woke up, was, what's on my leg? And I had to really stop and think, don't panic. There's a cat. Otherwise, the cat could have been fired bodily across the room in my moment of freak out. And there's no way she would be sitting here with me today if I had bodily thrown her across the room in a midnight freak out. So there is that. Bam. 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 Where's it gone? Where's it gone? There. Right. Okay. That gives us our little pumpkin. Yeah. Now I'm just going to take my needle here. And I'm just going to decide, do we want to curl this a little? Do we want to just leave it straight? What I think I'm going to try and do is pull it through a little bit tight to try and get it to wobble just a bit. Yeah, that looks cute. Then it's, do I want to just have this stitch showing on the bottom? Because who's going to know? Just the thousands of people on the internet. Again, you could just darn in this end through the actual stem if you wanted to. And now we're just going to give it a little tug, a little squeeze, and a little shove. Okay, here we go. Here's our cute little pumpkin. If I'd put more stuffing in, it would have been taller. If I had pulled it less through the top, it would have been less squat. You can put in some extra rows around the middle, which will give it a bit more girth. But that's it. That's my tiny pumpkin. Yeah. Well, so hopefully you enjoyed making this tiny pumpkin. I will link up here the cable pumpkin tutorial that I let out last year that became quite popular. And then I'll link a playlist down below of other holiday themed knits, I suppose. And if you want to stick around for other tutorials or just madness, or because you think my dog and the cat are cute, I'll put a subscribe button up the top. I will catch you next week. Bye!